Bill, could I get a roll call of the members and establish your quorum?
Yes, sir. District 1, Mr. Jeter.
Here.
District 2, Ms. Glover.
Here.
District 3, Mr. Skeen.
Here.
District 4, Mr. Bricky.
Here.
District 5, Mr. Castile.
Here.
District 6, Mr. Manus.
Here.
At large, Ms. Addington.
Here.
Chairman, you have a quorum.
Awesome. Has everyone had a chance to look over the agenda for today? We did have one change to the agenda. We're adding the school system to item 9B. Do I have a motion to add the school to 9B?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll go ahead and approve the agenda then. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Has everyone had a chance to look over the minutes and read over the minutes of our last meeting? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Everybody approve of the minutes by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next is citizens expression. I've got a little bit that I got to read, and there's been a slight change to how we do things for citizens expression, so I'll make y'all aware of that. Citizens expression is a point in the meeting where anyone who wishes to address the board may do so. If you wish to speak, please come to the podium, state your name, where you're from in the county, and or what organization that you represent. The board may or may not respond to anything you say, but we will take everything you say into account when making future decisions. Please keep your comments concise and businesslike and free of foul language. If no one has signed up to speak, we have no particular order. We ask that you take turns and speak your business. Any action or motions or anything like that will be considered after we close citizens expression, after everyone has had a chance to speak. The screens will show a timer for 5 minutes. We want to make sure that everybody had a fair amount of time to state your business, and it'll count down just like that, and we'll restart it for every speaker.
Peggy Tice has signed up to speak.
All right, Ms. Peggy Tice, come on.
Morning. Peggy Tice, Snowflake Road, Gate City, Virginia. And it's time for my monthly complaining about the dirt roads, but I saw on the agenda that y'all will be discussing something about the 6-year plan. I hope I could be able to stay long enough to listen to that. But all the dirt roads in Scott County, they're always needing help. I mean, they always need something. But I will have to say that Snowflake Road, in the condition it's in now, it's fair. I mean, Snowflake Road is better. But it would really be better if we had it blacktopped. And where VDOT cleaned out the drain pipes, that has been a big help so far on the ones it's on Snowflake Road. And we need to keep after Terry Kilgore to get us more money allotted for the dirt roads. And I don't think I'm gonna be up here in 5 minutes complaining, but anyway, thank you all for what y'all are doing. And if there is a 6-year plan, let's keep Snowflake Road on the 6-year plan. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Tice.
Good morning, board.
Good morning.
Bobby Couch Powers, 5248 Hanging Rock Parkway. The Coburn side knows it as Couch Mountain Road. There's several things on my mind I'd like to discuss, but I'll narrow it down. I don't always align with your decisions, but I think the board is moving in the right decision on this solar project. The people have signed the petition and sent in their support. Only a few are opposed, and the public have spoken with 250 signatures in support of this project. I'm not for or against solar. What I'm for is a citizen's absolute right to do what they want to with their land. I think we need to come together if you're willing and work together to better our community. The people of this county are tired of the board's unwillingness to work with the public on matters like this. To limit what someone can do with their private land will most assuredly not be tolerated. I come to these board meetings time and time. I hear people get up and ask for funds for the dirt roads in Scott County. I hope that's one of the board's first priorities to take care of. I called yesterday to Dobbins Bennett High School to ask them what they would charge me for my daughter, who's a dual enrolled student, to transfer to their school if she wanted to transfer from UVA to ETSU. I'm waiting back to hear from Jim Nash. I'm curious to know, and I'll follow up with the board and let you know what amount Tennessee charges for something that Scott County chooses to collect from its own citizens in taxes. And we're riding around on roads that we can't ride on. I want to face the public now and address them.
I'm sorry, Ms. Powers, during public expression, you're supposed to be addressing the board. Do you have
Okay,
anything
I can
to
address
say to the
you.
public?
I'll address you. If you're tired of the unconcerned, I'm telling the Scott County citizens now, if you're tired of the unconcerned behavior out on YouTube land, because you said this is aired on YouTube and on the local channels. If you're tired of the unconcerned behavior the board has towards us in big decisions, if you'd like to see a change, find me on Facebook. I'm there under Bobby Couch Powers. They have the commission board meetings at 6 p.m., but they can't give us the same considerations. We can get signatures for petitions to have board members recalled when they don't observe or try dampening our liberties. I'm here watching for efficiency, and I'm not done. I got matters to pursue with the EDA and many more. I'll be here every month. If you want help with any recall efforts, contact me.
Thank you, Ms. Powers.
Thank you.
Next.
Chris, I talk awful slow. Gary Baker, Lucy Creek. I don't know if I can get in 5 minutes or not. But anyway, I wanted to tell you about the Farm Bureau policy development thing we went to a couple of weeks ago. The Tice lady was talking about VDOT. You all can't do much with VDOT. But hopefully the Farm Bureau might be able to. And we did put in a resolution to reinstate VDOT the way it was back in the old days, where they had the manpower and the equipment to do their job and keep our, even the dirt roads, they kept them clean and cleaned out. Them boys ain't got enough people to even think about working anymore. And you know, the previous governor, I ain't gonna mention his name, he took all that away from us for using contractors. But anyway, Lee County went in with Scott County to push that thing. And there was some more stuff, but I'll not mention that here. I wanted to put in my 2 cents about the new county administrator. I think Bill Dingus is doing an excellent job. I watched him on TV. I've known his daddy and mommy, they were friends on that. And they'd be very proud of Bill, and I think he'd be a good asset for this county. And I think you ought to be blessed to keep him. That's my 2 cents, and I want to say that Eddie, anytime you want to put something in the paper to inform the public, so don't hesitate. We love to see stuff like that, and so a lot of times we don't know with y'all going into closed session what's going on. And be more transparent like our president is. Thank you all, appreciate it. Hey, I've still got about 3 minutes left.
You did pretty good. Thank you.
Good morning, board. My name's Catherine Stallard. I live on Big Moccasin in Nicholsville. I groomed dogs for 25 years and I've retired from that now, and I have the paw patch and board dogs when people go on vacation. I was here at the last meeting on March the 5th, 9 o'clock in the morning, to complain about some animals behind the Snowflake store. And by 4:15 p.m., the owner of those animals and his girlfriend came to my house to harass and intimidate me. I was told that the animal control officer went straight to his camper where he lived behind the Snowflake store and gave him my name and where I lived. And if you're looking to lower animal complaint calls, that's definitely the way to do it. People will be afraid that they'll be assaulted or harassed. Not only was this totally unprofessional, it could be extremely dangerous. But I'm telling you right now, it's not going to slow my calls down. I called my supervisor, Eddie, and he called me back and said that he had spoke with Sally and Bill about this. And I'm also speaking to a lawyer and the Attorney General. But this isn't the way it should be. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else?
Susan Meade, living in Virginia, but I do own property in Scott County. And I really don't understand why we are so negative about doing stuff in Scott County. I haven't figured that out, but I do pay taxes in Scott County. And I would think that since I own the property, I pay taxes, I should be able to do what it is, whatever I want with my property. It doesn't, I mean, if it's good for the county, by all means, that's what I would want to do, is help Scott County, because everybody wants everybody to prosper and make money. I want Scott County to make money. I want Russell County to make money. That way, all Southwest Virginia is doing prosper and creating jobs. But I really believe that if you own your property, you pay your taxes every year on your property, you should be able to do what you want to do with your property within law. Nobody should be able to stand and say, hey, yeah, you own property in my county, but no, you can't do this. That doesn't make sense to me. I just can't comprehend it. Why you would want to vote something down that could help the county and help the citizens of the county. That's all I got. Thank you.
What was your last name again, ma'am?
Meade, Susan Meade.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good morning. My name is Patricia Kilgore, and I live down in the Yuma area, and I have a resolution that I would like to read to you all, and I'll be glad to share you. Resolution of the Scott County Board of Supervisors requesting a comprehensive study by the Weldon Cooper Center and Virginia Tech Center for Economic and Community Engagement to assess the impact of Medicaid cuts on Scott County. Whereas Congressman Morgan Griffith recently voted in favor of federal budget legislation that includes potentially $800 billion in Medicare cuts, with an estimated $2.4 billion of these cuts impacting Southwest Virginia. And whereas Medicaid is a vital source of health care funding for the citizens of Scott County and plays a significant role in supporting local hospitals, independent pharmacies, nursing homes, home health providers, and other healthcare services that serve our most vulnerable populations, including children, seniors, and individuals with disabilities. And whereas healthcare providers are one of the largest employers in Scott County, and any significant reduction in Medicaid funding will undoubtedly result in job losses within the healthcare sector, threatening the economic stability of the region. And whereas healthcare careers such as doctors, registered nurses, certified nurse assistants, pharmacists, and other medical professionals are vital pathways for Scott County students seeking stable, well-paid careers. And whereas without reliable healthcare industry jobs, opportunities in Scott County, further healthcare professionals may be forced to relocate outside the county and region to secure employment. And whereas Scott County's financial stability is closely tied to the health of our local economy, and reductions in Medicaid funding could have a severe fiscal impact on the county budget and other essential services. And whereas the Weldon Cooper Center for Public Service and Virginia Tech Center for Economic and Community Engagement have a proven track record of providing accurate, nonpartisan economic analysis and are well equipped to assess the short-term and long-term effects of these Medicaid cuts. Now therefore be it resolved that the Scott County Board of Supervisors hereby request that the Weldon Cooper Center and Virginia Tech's Center for Economic and Community Engagement conduct a comprehensive study analyzing the potential impact of Medicaid cuts on healthcare sector job loss in Scott County and surrounding Southwest Virginia localities, the anticipated fiscal impact on the Scott County budget, the potential economic ripple effect on local businesses and service providers that depend on healthcare revenue, and the effect these cuts may have on future career opportunities for local students pursuing healthcare-related professions. Be it further resolved that the Scott County Board of Supervisors directs the county administrator to forward copies of this resolution to the Lenoisco Planning District Commission, Scott County School Board, the Scott County Industrial Development Authority, IDA, Senator Kane, Senator Mark Warner, Virginia's General Assembly leadership, local health care providers, education institutions, and community stakeholders. Be it finally resolved that this resolution be spread upon the minutes of this meeting, and that Scott County officials actively engage with the Weldon Cooper Center and Virginia Tech to ensure that the study's findings are presented to the Board of Supervisors and the public as soon as feasible. I'd like you to consider this for adoption.
Time is up, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
We will consider it.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, y'all. I'm Jared Ring. I'm from Castlewood, Virginia, though I hunt and work a little bit in Scott County. I'm here to speak in favor of the Nicholsville Solar Project and property rights in general. Being from Russell County, I know a thing or two about what a bad project looks like. Y'all might have heard about our landfill debacle, and I'm here to tell you this isn't one. I sat in on the public hearing for this project in Nicholsville. The developers have done their due diligence. There's nothing hazardous about the panels, and there's a financial incentive to refurbish and reuse those panels so they're not just going to be laying around. The power will be routed to the Nicholsville substation, so battery storage isn't even a concern. Really, the only arguments I heard that were based in reality were against the way that the panels might look. And I've looked at the site. I'll tell you, I have a hard time understanding how you'd see them for more than a couple of seconds while you're driving up 71. And at the end of the day, it's just poles in a field. When the project's over, it doesn't destroy or damage the land in any permanent way. You could remove those poles with a little more damage than removing a typical fence post. So what's the harm in it? And the cost of power is going to go up. The demand is going to go up. And I believe the more self-sufficient we can be with our energy generation, the better. And that's true across the board, whether we're creating our own food or creating our own power. I believe the more sufficient or self-sufficient we can be here in Southwest Virginia, the better. And how many people in Nicholsville are on fixed income? Does the cost of energy going up not disproportionately affect those people? So isn't it to the public benefit to ensure there's some mitigation to that by allowing this project to go forward? And it's also antithetical to the property rights on which this country was founded, to tell people what they can and can't do on their own land that's been bought and taxed, because a minority of people might not like the way that what they're doing on that land looks. I believe that if you purchase something and you pay taxes on it, as long as you're not actually hurting someone else, you should be able to do what you want on it. And if you want to put some poles and some flat things in a field, you should have the right to do so because it is your property. So I hope that you'll vote in favor of the project and in favor of bringing Southwest Virginia into a more energy self-sufficient future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rick. And just to address anybody that is here for the solar, we will have a separate public hearing for those solar projects. So if you have general concerns or expression about the general county, please do that in this session. We'll have a special session for the proposed solar projects.
Hi, I'm here to speak on that subject. I have an appointment in Kingsport I have to make, so is it all right if I go ahead? Or I can pass out the comments and leave?
Sure, you can go ahead.
Hi, my name is Peggy Matthews. I live just outside of Dungannon up on Sinkin. I'm here to speak in favor of the Copper Ridge 1 and 2 projects. As I attended the Planning Commission hearing and learned about the project. As I understand it, the Copper Ridge projects will provide solar power to approximately 1,479 local households in Scott County. It's greatly needed in my community of Dungannon, where most of the residents are low to moderate income, or are seniors on fixed incomes who can't afford to install solar power on their homes. At the time when we're seeing dramatic rate increases by Appalachian Power, customers of Copper Ridge project will see their power bills go down by 10%, with the potential of greater savings in the future. The project will bring 40 good-paying jobs to our local people who have been trained by Mountain Empire Community College as solar installers or electricians. The farmland that the Copper Ridge project will be built on will continue to be used as farmland for grazing sheep, providing an opportunity for local sheep farmers to expand their operations. But there's also a landowner rights issue, which has been mentioned here. Farmers have a hard time making a living just on farming alone. Who are we to tell a farmer what he can and can't do with his property if zoning and codes allow it? Leasing land for this shared solar project will provide the farmer with supplemental income to subsidize his cattle operation. And after 25 years, the solar arrays will be removed without restricting any future use. As I see it, this is a win-win all around. The county gets additional tax revenues from the equipment tax, customers get lower light bills, local electricians and solar installers trained by MECC get good paying jobs to build and maintain the arrays, sheep farmers have more land to graze their sheep, and the cattle farmer gets to hold on to his land. In Dungannon, we are very supportive of solar power. Our local health clinic installed solar power a few years ago. And the town is seeking funding right now to put solar on the town hall and in the community center of the depot, which will bring a significant savings to the town. We're also looking at putting a solar shade cover over playground, which would provide shade for the children while generating electricity for the town. We would welcome shared solar in Dungannon, and we have some good ideas of where we could put it. I appreciate you letting me take time to make my comments.
Does anyone else have any general citizens expression?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I do like to follow up on previous citizens expression questions. If you don't mind, I'd like to cover a couple. Sure. Mr. Berry in Fairview had asked about the fire hydrants on Fairview Road. And that line will not accept fire hydrants due to the size of the line on the new portion that's been added. He also mentioned the fire hydrant for the fill up of the fire truck
At the fire station.
is half mile away at a residence, and it's good pull off. He also asked about the school bus traveling on Bunker Road. I did check with the school superintendent and Supervisor Harmon Dexter, and they determined that road was unsafe for bus travel. And they said VDOT had actually closed a portion of the road. Blake Lawson had contacted supervisors to permanently close Fraleytown Road to through traffic. He said there had been a lot of drug activity, break-ins, stealing, trash, auto accidents. But since the bridge closure, that had gone away, it had been reduced. I did contact the 911 office, and there's no history of any drug-related calls since going back to 2021. And there was only one incident, and it was an intoxicated female at the bridge. So there's been no contact in the 911 office regarding their concerns. Doesn't mean they haven't been sent.
Mr. Lawson said he's going to come in next month and talk to us about it, and he's gathered broader support in his community.
Okay. The last thing is Mrs. Stallard had mentioned that she contacted some people following, or had been contacted from animal control after our last meeting. And you want to address that today or next meeting? Or?
Yes, when you gave me that information, I talked with animal control, and it is not our policy or their procedure to tell who made the complaint to a suspect that they may go do an investigation on. That is absolutely not something we do. In fact, it came to our attention that Ms. Stallard had that individual at her house to do work on her yard or something like that. So the individual already knew who she was and where she lived. But our animal control officer did not tell who she was talking about the complaint or where she lived. And that is not something we or any of the officers in the county would practice.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Anyone else?
Will got something. I'm here. This came up. My name's Eddie Sluss. I reside at 169 Francis Street, Gate City, Virginia. But anyway, since this came up and I'm here in the meeting with Mr. Daniel Slack on the animal control, I'm here since I'm here, I mean, it just happened. But I had a situation with dogs in my area in the subdivision down there. And I just want to say that it was properly handled in a professional manner. And the animal control officer did do a proper job, and he did not get out and spread no rumors. It was handled in a proper manner. Matter of fact, it was taken care of in such a proper manner that I never did know nothing about the animal control officer going to the other residents to take care of the situation. So I just want to verify that Mr. Davis is doing a great job and the animal control officers are doing a proper job in this county. Because I've had a situation to take care of, and my neighbors too. I spoke for the neighbors in the situation as well. At first, I didn't think I was getting a great response from the officer, but after I figured out that he handled it in a proper manner, that he didn't need to get everybody involved and start a big rigmarole of things, then I seen how things are handled, and I appreciate it. But I think, as far as how Mr. Davis is going about handling everything in this county on the animal control and the officers and stuff, I think we've got a great system myself. I mean, you know, you can't control everything everybody does. And that's what people have seen. We've gotten a habit of in this area since I moved back from Roanoke, Virginia. It's like everybody wants to control everybody. That's not the way we should be. We should look at the opinion of everybody. And it don't give us a right to downgrade that person and trash talk. And like I said, I appreciate the job Bill's doing, and I think everything's going good myself. But I can't sit back there because I know his family, I know the county, I grew up in the county, and I'm not going to sit here and allow somebody to be downgraded and put down when I know different. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Slauson.
May I say something?
Yes.
I will advise everyone that our meetings are live, so what you say goes out to the public immediately. So just letting you know that.
All right, with that, citizens' expression is closed. We will consider the, what was this resolution at a later date. We'll move on to public hearings, which I think is what most everyone is here for this morning. And we'll start with a public hearing on special use permit from Pivot Energy for tax map 72-8-77 on Twin Springs Road, Nicholsville, Virginia.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I'm Ken Williams, taking David's place. So bear with me because I'm kind of trying to still get a hold of everything. But we as the county have been approached by Pivot Energy, Mr. Hard, who owns the property, to put in a solar field and put some stuff together here. Kind of some maps and everything as to where it's located and everything. There's 2 parcels of property. We had them apply for 2 separate permits, kind of keep everything straight as to where each property is. The first one is okay. There's a map of kind of where it's located at there next to Twin Springs and Nicholsville. That's a little better map showing how it's positioned off of Twin Springs Road. Aerial map. And this is showing that it is in AR, agricultural residential zone, which in that zoning is pretty much free to do what they like and all that. Some of it does require special use permits, which this is one of them. That's a map that kind of shows how the solar panels would be laid out on the property. Here's the agricultural residential under zoning, describing what it is and what's allowed. If it has the asterisks and stuff on it, it would require special use permits, which Pivot Energy and Mr. Hart has met all the requirements. They actually had an extra community meeting because of
not meeting all of it. There's the asterisk. And this is where they had their meetings. But anyway, they have met all that. This is the people that had registered letters sent out to them to let them know what was going on and was having these hearings, which all that has been done. And we're here now to present to you all to get a vote. Like I say, the second field is adjoining, this is on the Nicholsville Highway. And there's their application that they have provided, applied for. Basically the same location. It shows how it adjoins Hitt County corners on Nicholsville Highway and Twin Springs. There's the aerial map. It is also agricultural residential, which they have applied for the special use permits and met all the requirements. Map of it, how that would lay out. And again, it goes through the same thing again on the zoning and our requirements, which they have met so far. So at this, I guess I could turn it over to Mr. Cruz and let her make her presentation. And I'll turn it over to her now if she'd like.
If not, then I'll just cue you. Cool. Well, good morning. As you said, my name is Georgia DeCruz. I'm a manager for project development here at Pivot Energy. I've seen many of you before out of community meetings and just out and about, so it's good to see you all. Thank you for taking the time this morning to go through both of these proposed projects. So the first project we'll look at is Copper Ridge 1. Let me see. Yeah, I'm going to meet you. Click, thank you. Just a little agenda, kind of what we'll go over, just background on Pivot, go over the site plans, some revenue to Scott County, I'll go over the shared solar program and local savings that we can see for subscribers here, our holistic practices, community engagement that we've done, some site diligence, and then we can just wrap it up with a little summary and go over some questions. Thank you. So we are a small-scale solar developer, specifically developing community solar or shared solar, is what it's referred to in Virginia. We've been around since 2009, so this is definitely our specialty. We are based in Colorado, in Denver, but we have a footprint in Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, along the East Coast, as well as in the Midwest. We are a community-focused developer, meaning that we invest in the community that we develop projects in, whether that's through donations or assisting, farmers in their sheep raising, but we invest in their community organizations. That's just our what's important to us. And we are a long-term owner and operator, also known as an IPP, an independent power producer. So essentially what that means is I'll be permitting the project, hand it off to our internal construction, they'll build the project, and then they'll hand it off to our internal owner and operator. So they'll manage the project, they'll operate the project, and so you'll always be talking to Pivot throughout the entire life of the project through decommissioning. Excellent. Next slide. So we'll go over the site plans just to kind of give you an overview, similar to how Tim did. The Copper Ridge 1 site is located to the west off of Twin Springs Road and southwest of the town of Nicholsville. Go to the next one. Zooming in a little bit further, this is a proposed 5 megawatt project that will be fixed tilt, use fixed tilt racking. The reason that we decided to go with fixed tilt racking is because of the topography in this area. It's very sloping, and because we're going with a fixed tilt racking, you don't have to do as much grading. If you were to do the tracking panels, because of the weight distribution, it needs a little bit of a flatter surface. We're able to use fixed tilt panels and not really touch the topography at all here and limit the amount of grading that we can do on site. The site plan that I want to highlight is that we have some buffering there towards the north corner of the project site. And we are set off well over 200 feet off of residential, non-participating abutters, as well as well off of 100 feet off of the parcel boundary line there. Our point of interconnection will be on Twin Springs Road, and that will interconnect into the existing 3-phase line, and that will travel all the way up to the Copper Ridge substation, about 4 miles north, still on Twin Springs Road. You can go to the next one. So we'll talk about tax revenue to Scott County. So in my submission to you all for the special use permit, did a tax revenue analysis for you, and was able to kind of compare the machinery and tools tax rate with the revenue share rate. These are the 2 tax rates in Virginia that solar facilities are allowed to be taxed specifically by. The revenue share rate is not listed up here because it did not bring in as many tax dollars as the machinery and tools tax rate. So the revenue share rate is a flat rate of $1,400 per megawatt per year on the project, and then the machinery and tools tax rate uses the local real estate tax rate. So did an analysis, wanted to compare what the current revenue on the taxes on the property is. So for the 65 acres, bringing in just a little bit over $1,000 a year in current tax revenue. With the machinery and tools tax rate on the 30 leased acres, that would bring in an additional $12,000 per year in tax revenue. So significantly increasing the amount of revenue that current property is bringing in. And then calculated it over the course of 40 years on average, with that $12,000 a year, bringing in just a little bit under $500,000 in tax revenue. And that's revenue that's coming into the county for you to use for roads, schools, businesses, whatever you see fit. And that's also revenue that's coming in without a need for teachers' salaries or schooling or buses or anything else. So the solar facility isn't requiring any other needs in the county. It's just bringing in that net revenue. Thank you. So go over the shared solar program. Shared solar has been around in Virginia since 2020. Dominion kind of took off with the program first, and over the course of the years, the SCTC has put it into play, calling it the shared solar legislation. They've recently amended the rules in February to bring Appalachian Power customers a shared solar program. So this will be effective July 1st. And how it works, we're going to go into a nice little visual in the next slide here. Oh, sorry, I'll go back. You're good, thank you. How it works is essentially customers will subscribe to the local project and purchase bill credits from us at a discounted rate, typically about 10% discounted, and then they can apply those solar credits to their energy bill. This is really important, and the reason that we're here before you today is because we need a land use permit from you all in order to secure capacity in the shared solar program. So in order to have these benefits for the folks that I'm about to talk about, we need to have a approved land use permit. So again, just illustrative purposes here, round numbers, make it a little easier. Without community solar, you have just your electricity bill. And then with community solar, you have 2 separate bills. One being going through our Sun Central program and team, which they will set you all up and get you all situated there. We will communicate, and APCO will also know that you're subscribed to the shared solar program, so everyone will be on board in this. But essentially, you'll be purchasing the solar credits from us at that 10% discounted rate. Those solar credits will then get applied to your electricity bill, reducing it significantly. But essentially, you have two bills saving about 10% between the two at the end of the day. So what does that 10% look like for Scott County customers here? Sorry. You're good, thank you. So just looking at the average Appalachian Power customer energy bill, about $180 on average, give or take. You never really know what exactly it's going to be at the end of the month, but that's on average. And monthly, that 10% savings would be about $18. Throughout the course of the year though, that adds up and can save you a little over $220, which for some folks, you know, could be groceries, could be school supplies, could be, you know, whatever else that, you know, normal folks want to spend that extra money on or saving for college funds or whatever it ends up being. So it's a significant amount of money. So we projecting using our engineering PV system models for how much power can be produced from 5 megawatt projects, project that this 5 megawatt project can produce enough energy for 739 folks to subscribe to the project. That annually is a significant amount of money. If we're looking at $165,000 saved for Scott County residents because 739 people are subscribed to the project, that's a ton of money that gets to stay in the county, gets to stay in the pockets of residents who live in Scott County to pay for whatever it is they need to, or save that for the future. Same thing, just calculated over 40 years, we're looking at like $6.6 million, which is a ton of money over the entire life of the project for folks to just continue to save and you know, invest in their future, invest in their kids' future. Go to the next one. So these are a few of our holistic practices that Pivot specifically does. I believe this definitely differentiates us from other developers because we develop smaller scale projects and it's a little bit easier for us to deploy these types of practices. So we like to use native grasses and forbs on site. This is really awesome for creating habitats for local pollinators. Those deep root systems help keep the soil and vegetation just in place and during droughts and downpours, whatever. It helps with the stormwater management. As well as they're just really pretty. It's aesthetically pleasing. We like to use flowering plants, things that are nice to look at the end of the day as well. Thank you. And then the other thing that we like to use, and what you've been hearing that we're proposing, is the dual use agricultural use on site. So 99% of the projects that we develop, with the exception being rooftop projects, we put sheep on site. We find that they're an incredible grazing animal that helps keep down vegetation. It's also quiet. It's also less intensive than mowing. And typically is more suited for the native grasses and forbs. So we're not just having turf grass on site. They're having a lot of other nutritional value from just all the native grasses and forbs that we end up using. This kind of just goes into it a little bit more of like what is it and how do we manage it. So we would be managing the farmer on site to manage his sheep. Typically, they're not just sitting on site all year long. They're there during the growing season, and then they typically don't have sheep on site during the winter if there's not a whole lot to graze on. And then there's not going to be hundreds of sheep on site. It's only about 3 to 5 sheep per acre. So when we're looking at like a 30 or a 15 technically fenced-in acre site, it's really not a ton of sheep that are going to be on the property. They're not going to be everywhere. But yeah, this is our just general approach for it. We've also connected with Scott Jarrell, who's Scott County's Virginia Cooperative Extension Coordinator for Agriculture and Natural Resources, to just understand, okay, like we want to have local farmers here to have their sheep on site, and we want to make sure they get the proper training. So connecting with him to understand if maybe we could be partners in that sense for education and also just for the training purposes. So the community engagement that we've done, last year around this time, sent out some just mailers to the adjacent abutters to go over the project itself, introduce myself, and start the conversation of, hey, we're gonna potentially be neighbors, this is our proposed project. And then we've had 2 community meetings, one in December last year and another one in February. Had quite a decent amount of folks show up. Answered questions, addressed concerns, and took some feedback for our site. So to kind of look at the Planning Commission feedback, just a few of the things that they had mentioned at the hearing last month. We talked about the soil impact and the need for potential water quality testing. I know that was something that a recent project was also going over, so that is something that we are absolutely willing to look at and address with you all. The stormwater management, part of the reason that we're doing fixed tilt is because we're minimizing the grading. And when we minimize the amount of grading we're doing, we're just leaving the current drainage patterns as is. So should be really awesome for the site to continue to have its typical draining patterns, and the stormwater management plan will also just support those. The other thing I just wanted to point out is that Virginia has really conservative, strict regulations on how stormwater management and how these facilities are addressed. Typically, they ask us to treat the facility as if it were a parking lot. So it's an impervious surface, as if there's no water able to get through, which we know is not necessarily true, but that's how they want us to treat the site. So our stormwater management plans are going to be very thorough. They're going to be touching all these points, and they're going to be just addressing anything that could potentially come up. And then just the local grid interconnection. To just reiterate, we're connecting off of Twin Springs Road into the 3-phase lines that already exist there. We're going through studies, and we had gone through studies for this project. Got those back with Appalachian Power. So we paid for the studies for that, and then soon when we receive our interconnection agreement with Appalachian Power, we will be paying for any of the upgrades that need to happen, whether that's to the power lines or the substation. We will be paying for that, and so the grid will be upgraded and be able to support our project, but also in turn support your grid that connects to the upgrades that we're making. And the last thing I wanted to note is that we've recently signed an agreement with Solfab Solar. They are a Canadian-based solar manufacturer. They have a manufacturing plant in Fort Mill, South Carolina, where they will be producing panels out of there, and so we have an agreement with them to supply us with panels over the next 2 years. We're really excited about this because it means we are once again bringing more U.S. jobs together, but also just contributing to having our panel sourced in the U.S. Thank you. And then community benefits package, I think that we've kind of discussed before. Like we said, we invest in all the communities that we develop in. One of the ways we do that is by making a $5,000 per megawatt donation to the community. We've had a few conversations with different organizations here that help with energy burden reduction or workforce development. But ultimately, I think our partner has been pretty clear that we will probably partner with Nicholsville Fire and Rescue because it is so local to the community and that we are building in, and also we'll be addressing a need that they have. So we're really excited. We're starting those conversations with the chief, and we'll continue to keep you all updated on that. Thank you. The next one. So our site diligence that we've completed for the site, so went through the Department of Historic Resources, and the way that they evaluate a solar facility is that within a half-mile radius of where we are building a solar project, we need to evaluate any cultural and historic resource that comes up on their information system. So this is the visual that you're seeing here, the little star being Copper Ridge 1 in the middle. So within that half-mile radius, Bushnell is pinged. We've determined that there should be no visible impact due to the slope and the forested area of just where our site is located and where Bushnell is. According to the Department of Historic Resources, as long as we are not visually visible from the historic property, and as long as we are not obscuring the view of the historic property, we are having no impact on the site. There are a few other dots on here that were pinged within that radius, but in recent surveys, neither of these architectural points have been deemed as historical. So here are our wetland, floodplain, and water delineation map from our engineers. They've identified just a few streams and ponds on the property. Just to the north there, but we're avoiding those anyways. Just don't want to build in those areas. It is important to note where these are though, because typically that is where stormwater likes to make its way down to. So it's good to know where they are, and that way we can support the natural floodplains and waterways that are on site already. Thank you. Also had a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Survey done on site. During the building construction period for the project is when this is really important to know, okay, when are there any organisms on site? Are they, nesting? Are they breeding? Whatever. And so there were none on site that were listed and are identified as anything that we needed to avoid. The important thing to know about all these studies that we've conducted is that they fall under the Department of Environmental Quality. And so prior to our site plan approval and our final site design, before we can even go to building permit, these have to be evaluated by the DEQ by permit by rule. So more eyes will be looked on this. These are just preliminary studies, but so far so good. And this is just kind of a summary to kind of go over and highlight those main points that I've made for the community benefits. Plenty of tax revenue over the life of the project, $12,000 per year on average, on top of what's already going to be paid in tax revenue, as well as about $220 annually for subscriber savings. And yeah, we're going to be owning the project for the life of the project, and so you will be doing with us the whole time. But yeah, that kind of concludes my presentation.
Did you want to say anything?
Sure. First, I want to thank all the citizens of Scott County. I want to thank the Board of Supervisors. I want to thank everybody that has been involved in making this project come together. I know that over the past 2 days or so, I've received approximately 15 or 20 letters that have went to the Board of Supervisors in support of this project. I know that the Board of Supervisors has been peppered with letters from citizens of the community speaking out that this project is good for the county. I know that the Board of Supervisors has received letters from people in the healthcare industry talking about that the citizens of Scott County, that there's folks that choose medicine versus paying an electric bill, that choose food versus paying an electric bill. I know that each Board of Supervisors sitting here has received letters from healthcare professionals. I know that each Board of Supervisors has received letters from people that live in Nicholsville that have a vested interest in the success of Nicholsville. I know that the supervisors have received letters from preachers. I know that teachers have reached out. I know that there have been lots of support to come for this project. I'm going to have the energy company pass around again the petition to the Board of Supervisors that 250 people of the Nicholsville area, there's a few on there from Gate City and other Scott County, but there's 250 people. And if we're for the people, there's 250 people that have put their name, address, and telephone number and has asked this Board of Supervisors to approve the project. Moreover, we've got probably, I'm going to estimate 15 to 20 letters that y'all have received in the last few days urging that this project be approved. That's overwhelming. When you look at things from public affairs, when you look at statistics, 85% of the people who ever contact a governmental agency, a board, 85% of the people who ever reach out are negative on almost every project that comes before a commission to ask for approval. 85% are usually negative. This group of 250 signatures are people who wanted to support this project. When you add up the $6.6 million in savings
that these folks in the Nicholsville area can save on their utility bills, plus the $500,000 in taxes, that's $7 million. And what does the county have to do for $7 million? Nothing. Pivot Energy and the landowner have paid every expense. Pivot Energy and the landowner have paid for every study, every step of the way for this to happen, for the citizens of Scott County to be able to get $7 million. There's 21,000 people in this county. There's 21,000. This will help approximately 1,300 households on their electric bill. That's about probably 3,000 to 4,000 people, depending on how many people reside in dwelling houses and things like that. So there's about 4,000 people who will save 10% on their power bill. There's 21,000 that need tax relief on property taxes. Every nickel that we can bring in is good for the citizens. We will never have progress without change. And I'm a history person, and I'm World War II, and I've always been a history person. You know, President Roosevelt, one of his quotes, I saved this, said the test of progress is whether we provide enough for those who have little. Are we providing enough for those who have little? This is giving the average household $200 and some a year discount that amasses to $7 million overall. So there is nothing that can be put on a small section of farmland, which represents about less than probably 5% of the farmland that I own in the county. 5%, one small area that would give the benefit of $7.7 million. There's lots of other uses that could go on that property. You could have a cattle feeding facility that creates dust, smell, odor, flies, issues with manure, issues with smell and feed storage, tractor and trailers coming in all the time to deliver cattle, to deliver feed. Increased traffic is a huge thing with a feeding facility. If there was a feeding facility there, like is in other roads of Scott County, there'd be 2 or 3 tractor and trailers on Twin Springs Road or 71 coming in every day, either hauling cow manure or hauling waste feeds or hauling cattle out. So for a traffic standpoint, anything that would ever go on these properties would increase the traffic count, except solar. Solar is the silent neighbor. It obstructs nothing. The most persistent and urgent question that we should be asking ourselves every day when we wake up is, what are we doing for others? That's the question we need to ask every morning when we wake up. What are we doing for others? And how are we benefiting our neighbors? What are we doing to help people? I want to leave here knowing today that we've taken positive steps to help every citizen of this county. I want to know that. I want to know that we appreciate being the luckiest 1% of humanity, and we need to consider our neighbors and consider the other 99% of the people. There is always sacrifice. We all make sacrifice. We make sacrifices to come to this meeting. There's not a person sitting up here said, I want to be a board of supervisors because I really want that paycheck every month. You know, you guys don't make 50 cents an hour if you kept your time. Okay? Everybody makes sacrifices. We make sacrifices on a daily basis, whether we volunteer in our community, whether it's a food bank, whether it's picking up garbage along a highway, we give back to the community. This is a way to give back to the community that requires nothing. There's a sign on the wall over here, Soul Smart, and that sign was given to this committee because this county is pro-solar. It hangs on the wall behind your head to be there overlooking you and watching what you do. Now, when we examine this project, we examine it under a criteria of an ordinance, and not to get into legal aspects, but we examine it under the criteria of an ordinance. The ordinance was passed by this board unanimously last fall. And we have not only met, but we have exceeded every criteria of that ordinance. We've pulled the setbacks further back than the ordinance requires. If you look at the maps, we've pulled it back from 71. We've put in more vegetation barriers. We've pulled it back from households. We have respected community input beyond belief to make this a very progressive and positive project for the county. And when we look at the Commonwealth of Virginia, we're based on limited government. This board sits here for one reason only. If you'll look at the ethics, if you'll look at the structure of the Commonwealth, this board exists for one reason, and that is to act in the common good of all. It is not to vote for something because there's 10 of your friends that want you to vote that way. It's not to have an agenda. The purpose of a board of supervisors is to act for the common good of all. And this small project is the greatest example that I have ever seen for Scott County to act for the common good of all to generate $7 million. Now, when you look at the project and you look at these maps, you can see the project from a few homes. Yes, you can. There is significant distance. There will be vegetation barriers, but there's very few homes that can see this project. There's 8 or 9 homes that could potentially see some portion of this project from some point on their property. But this occurs in cities and counties, both rural and urban, throughout this country. And when you look at something, this is not a matter of first impression. First impression, for people that don't understand how certain things are reviewed, is this is going to be the first solar farm in the country. If we were going to be the first person to ever do this, then you look at things a little different. There's nearly 6,500 solar farms in this country. 6,500 solar farms. And I had to look it up. I didn't know how many counties was in the United States. There's just a little over 3,000. So if you do the math, the average county has approximately 2 solar farms at the current rate. So we have, in the United States, every county has approximately 2 solar farms. That means that federal, state, and local governments have examined these solar farms under a microscope for many years. There's solar farms that I have drove by for years. Going into historic Jonesboro, there is a solar farm. Bright Ridge put a solar farm directly on the road. There is no vegetation barrier, and everybody that's going to the Ridges Golf Course, which the cheapest home in there is $1 million, everybody drives right by that solar farm every day. When I occasionally go to Amy Mill Restaurant to eat in Hawkins County at the historic Amy Mill. The elementary school has solar panels right against the road, and you drive by and you look over to your left, you see the solar panels, and then you see the school, and you go on down to the historic Amy Mill. None of these projects are hurting development. They encourage development. Builders will tell you when they build a nice home, one of the first questions that is asked is what my utility cost will be. And they look to put solar panels on their homes. So with 6,500 operating solar farms throughout this country, a solar farm on the entrance into Nicholsville hurts no one. It shows progress. It shows that we are progressive in this county and we're keeping up with the modern times. The speed limit in front of my farm is 55 miles an hour going into Nicholsville. You may see that solar farm for a second or two if you look for it on your left, and when you're exiting town, you don't even see the farm. Now, when you go out Twin Springs Road, if you stop and look back, yes, you could see some panels up in a hayfield until a vegetation barrier grows in a little bit. But why should we be embarrassed of solar? They're not embarrassed of it in Jonesboro, going into the Ridges Golf Course. They're not embarrassed anywhere else. This is nothing detracting from the community, and everything's a balancing test. We have a set of scales in our mind for everything that we do in life. Why do we get up and go to work in the morning? Because we want to put some money on a scale. Why do we do anything? We have to balance the positives and the negatives. I'd like to have been asleep this morning, but I needed to be here. There's positives and negatives. So when you start stacking the positives, you put $7 million on this side of the scale. You put 250 people that's in your district that has signed a petition wanting it. You put those 250 people, you stand them on top of $7 million. And then you read the letters that's went to this board from the people who are asking and saying this community needs help, this community needs money. Every time that y'all even mention a property tax increase, you fill this little room up. You fill it up. What does that tell you? That instinctively tells you to do something other than raise property taxes. The money has to come in. There's 40 people or so in this room today, and I know there's over 20 that are here to support this project. So at least half of this room is here to support this project. And a lot of the people that wanted to be here could not be here. That's why y'all received letters. And that's why that they have signed a petition. So when we're balancing the good and we're conducting a balancing test, we put all this money here, and then we put the 250 people, and we look at everybody in the Scott County that will benefit from additional revenue for the county. What do we put on this side of the scale? We know it's safe because there wouldn't be 6,500 of them if it wasn't. We know it's clean. Every state and county has already examined this. So what are we putting on this side of the scale? If we're not going to approve something, why are we not going to approve it? Why would we vote against it? What do we put on this side? Do we put on this side of the scale that we've got 20 people that don't want it? Well, you can find 20 people or 30 people that don't want anything. You could build the fountain of youth, and some people may not like it. But I understand that change is scary. But I'll leave you with one thing. Franklin Roosevelt also said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And this is a well-executed plan to help this county bring in the money and help the citizens. So when you hear from people today, and I know that there's some people that reach out to me and they want to speak to you. They want to speak to you. Listen to them. They're telling you that they know that they've got neighbors and they've got friends and they've got family that struggle, that need every nickel of help that they can get. And how could we look the citizens of Scott County in the face and say, we decided not to help you? I want to thank everybody who has listened. I want to thank everybody who has supported. And I certainly appreciate everyone here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. And with that, I will open up public expression for Pivot Energy on tax map 72-A-77.
Again, my name's Eddie Sluss. I reside at 169 Francis Street, Gate City, Virginia. Even though I don't reside in the Nicholsville area, I am in support of solar panel farms. And the reason being is because AEP, they are getting to the point until they don't care whether energy comes into this area or not. If you don't believe me, you just travel where I've been. Drive a semi, been driving one for 30 years. I've covered 44 states, covered every interstate across the United States. There's not one I haven't crossed. I've talked to governors, I've talked to senators across the whole United States. I didn't sit in my truck and be scared. I got out and I explored what's available in the United States. I saw the first solar panel farms going in Los Angeles, California. And so it was to support a hospital. And they're building these solar panel farms for hospitals. Scott County needs health care. We're tied in to Kingsport for health care. They're making a killing off of us over here for health care. Because when you get your own health care, you get a rebate from the state. State of Tennessee's loving Scott County because of all the money they're garnering from all the people here going. We are the only second county in the state of Virginia that doesn't have an emergency room facility or some type of small hospital. And I don't understand why, but it's because they say we only live 10 minutes from Holston Valley here in Gate City, but I mean, a lot of times now for traffic, for our EMS people to get from Duffield or Blackwater to Holston Valley is an hour's trip, one way, because of the traffic backed up. 23 is becoming a main access into Canada. They are four-laning 23 in Michigan, Ohio, all the way down to here. It's becoming a major road, a track for transportation. And traffic's going to get heavier through here. But we could be a benefit with just a hospital in this county. And Mayo Clinic is going strictly to solar panel farms. Mayo Clinic's one of the largest hospital facilities in the United States. And they are turning completely to solar farms, so there's no danger in the solar panel farms. I hold the products that the solar panel farms are built from. Not one product that goes into a solar panel requires hazmat placards. None. I hold the silicone for it. Even the silicone you use in your house, around your bathtub, your sinks. And then sometimes if it gets cold, what do? You say, I'll go warm it up. So you warm it up so you can spread it better. So there's no danger in a solar panel farm heating up. I mean, you know, it's common sense when you check into it. If you want to do your math and check it out. But I'm all for it. I can't see it with the tax money that it's going to create for this county and the people that's suffering in this county. I mean, there's people that is getting to the point till they go to the grocery store every day to pick up their food to live because they can't afford to go and buy it all at one time now. They go every day and pick up one small package of food to feed their family. I've talked to them, I know them. They're having to do it. They're stopping and getting $3 and $4 worth of gas. Why? Because the taxes went higher and nothing's been brought into this county to help the relief of the people. I mean, I live in this county and grew up in it. I went to Roanoke for 11 years. I mean, nobody up there ever went against what everything was wanting to happen to help the people. Nobody stood up against it. Everybody was for it. They joined arms, they locked arms, and they said, yes, we're going for it. And there's a elementary school in Buchanan County on 460 that operates from a solar panel farm now. They built a new elementary school up there, about 6 miles north of Grundy on 460, and it's powered by solar farms right above the school. If there was any danger in that getting into the water, Sandy River runs right down by it. Got the solar panel farm up here, and down here goes Sandy River. If there was any danger of any water being polluted, they wouldn't have put that solar panel farm up there above that elementary school. And Buchanan County's new school is going to be supported by some solar panels. The new school they're building up there, they're installing solar panels for it to operate it. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer not to have some type of backup energy in this county. I mean, when you get those little flickers in your energy, and it's about 2 or 3 minutes before it comes back on, you know what happened? AEP just hit a switch in Kentucky or Ohio and sent the energy somewhere else. They're controlling the energy just like they're controlling cell tower phones, is what they're doing. They've got to that point with this hydroelectric. All they got to do is flip a switch and it'll cut your energy from this area. They can cut the energy out of Gate City and send it to Duffield. That's how controlling that it's got this hydroelectric change that's come about. They did it to control it. And AEP a few years ago was encouraging areas to get a backup source of energy. When I lived in Roanoke, Virginia, I had 4 nuclear plants around me, 4 nuclear energy plants. Nobody there died of cancer within 11 years. I mean, you know.
Thank you for your comment.
So, anyway, I encourage the solar panel farms. I think it'll be a great asset to the people of the county.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Slutz.
Good morning, board. My name is Brant Graham. I'm a landowner in Scott County, and I'm also a home builder. And I'm absolutely in support of the solar system. I think that anything that's going to help us with power bills and is very important. Just want to let you know.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Good morning, board, Mr. Chair. It's good to be back in front of you. I think the last time I was here was in the fall, so it's good to be back in 2025. My name is Ben Wilson. I am now the Director of Strategy and Engagement with Energy Rights. And so for everyone who hasn't heard me speak yet, is a conservative nonprofit based in Virginia, with our main goal being to advocate for property rights, but also for responsible renewable energy development, largely in solar, but batteries as well and other technologies. So today, of course, you've heard my spiel a lot. I really just want to highlight a conversation that our team had recently with the Director of the Department of Energy here in Virginia, Glenn Davis. He used to be a delegate in the House of Delegates here in the Commonwealth. we had a conversation with him, which you can see on YouTube, but he brought up an interesting point that I think sometimes gets lost. He said energy and power is probably the most important thing day to day that we do not think about, right? We wake up in the morning, we throw our legs out of bed, we look at our phone. That requires power. We turn on our lights. That requires power. We, open the fridge, cook breakfast, we go to work, we look at our computer. All of that requires energy. And then, unfortunately, in Virginia, like many states in the United States, our demand for energy is growing, which is great, means more investment, but we're not keeping up to par in terms of our generation. And like was said earlier, we want to find a way to, here in Virginia specifically, try to site that as locally as possible, right? We want to bring energy back here, back to our communities, to our state, because that not only helps, like you've heard, save consumers dollars, but what it does is it secures our grid. It allows us to be more independent. Fun fact, Virginia imports the most energy of any state in the United States to address our energy needs, and that's only going to continue to grow. It's important that we consider these projects as they come before us on their merits, and like was said earlier, against the ordinance that you all have. But it's also important, I want to highlight today, to consider these projects individually. These are two different projects to consider individually on their merits. For us as an organization, we recognize that there are good projects and there are bad projects. It's important to measure that up against the standards that you've set for your county, which are based on facts and figures and resources, to ensure that the project is a good neighbor, is a good partner for your community. The last thing that I'll highlight, of course, and you've heard me say this before, is onshoring manufacturing for this industry is essential for the future of the United States, for the future of Virginia, for the future of Scott County. Bringing those jobs, that manufacturing to the United States, for all industries, but in particular renewable energy is essential as we continue to grow as a country. And by supporting projects that are taking advantage of what's already here, we're not only utilizing what's existing manufacturing, but we're showing the industry that yes, there is interest here in Scott County, in Virginia, in the United States to bring that manufacturing here, to bring those jobs here. You've, I think, probably heard me say this before, Bedford County is going to be, hopefully, the first county to bring that type of manufacturing and then recycling of solar to the Commonwealth. That is a trend that we want to see continue to grow. Things are back and forth, and we want to make sure that we can shore up our manufacturing, our economy here in the United States, in Virginia, and in Scott County. So I encourage you to measure these projects, this project, the next project, up against that ordinance that was well crafted and passed unanimously to ensure that the projects moving forward, if you choose to approve them, are good neighbors. Appreciate your time this morning, and look forward to speaking with you all again soon.
Next person, please. Is that it for public?
I'm Phil Broadwater, live on Twin Springs Road, right across from where the proposed solar farm is, and really concerned about the location. And my daughter and her husband live right in the middle of where it's proposed, and I own land on both sides of it. And we're really concerned about property values, what will happen to property values, and not only that, but just the overall general appearance of the solar farm and how it would be maintained. And just want y'all to give consideration to that. And there's a lot of people that lives out through there that's been there all their life. And they're very much opposed to it. And I think that we do have a list of people, I don't know if it's been provided or not, a list of people that signed petitions against it, that most of them live out in that area. And I'd like you all to take consideration when you vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for public expression?
Good morning. My name is Danny Dixon. I believe I know most of you. I'm currently the mayor of the town of Nicholsville. Under different circumstances, I would be probably sitting on this side of the room in favor of most of what you've heard about. In fact, I don't come here today because I'm opposed to solar at all. I'm representing the views of the town council and a large number of people in Nicholsville who have concerns about this particular project. I also am very impressed with Pivot Industries' manner in which they have conducted themselves, the thoroughness of their work, and the benefits to Scott County that this approach will bring. And I hope that future projects that you'll be looking at are similarly supportive of Scott County. My biggest concern about this that I'll express today, there are a couple more that I won't take time to express, is the location. We know that solar panels do contain substances that are toxic. Some of those are lead, some of those are arsenic, in some cases cadmium, although I saw that that was not in this particular one. We've been assured, as you have, that they're so encapsulated that the environment is completely protected from any harm. And that may be true under normal circumstances. We don't always get normal circumstances. We all know that extreme weather events happen, as they have in Montana and Texas, other places across the United States fairly recently, and as they happen in Scott County from time to time. And sometimes these solar panels don't stand up to hailstorms and other things very well. Rainwater leaches some of these toxins out of the broken panels into the ground. We don't know exactly how toxic that is, what kind of an impact that'll have. We may not know that for decades, and when we find out, it may be too late. Like lead, for example, that we used to put in our paint, only to find out we were poisoning ourselves. Happens all the time. But the point is, if that were to happen on this particular site, we've got big problems. Down the hill, the bottom of this hill from this particular proposed site is a large wetland that would be contaminated just by normal runoff. But more important to the town of Nicholsville is the fact that this proposed site is situated on top of a ridge that is literally honeycombed with caves and sinkholes and crevices that would allow any such incursion of toxins to seep down through into the aquifers that the town of Nicholsville depends upon for its municipal water supply. Within a few hundred yards of this proposed project, we have 2 wells currently that are operating under the direction of Scott County PSA. Another half mile, we've got another well. If these wells become contaminated, then we have a catastrophe on our hands that's going to spill over to this board. There's no way that Scott County or Nicholsville or PSA could handle the sort of catastrophe that would bring on. So that would put the whole county in a terrible situation. Nicholsville's an island. We're not connected to anybody else for water supply, even though PSA is working on that right now. That's all we've got, folks. Now, I understand why Mr. Harr and the folks working in the industry are less concerned about that than I am. They don't have to drink the water. They don't live here. And they don't have to clean up the mess if something catastrophic happens. But you and I will. We'll be faced with that. Mr. Harr has a lot to gain if this project goes through. He's committed that in the last meeting, $3,000 or $4,000 a month. Yeah, that looks pretty good, and I'm not belittling that, nor am I opposed to him making money. I'm just saying, can we afford to gamble that within the 40-year lifespan of this solar farm, we won't have extreme weather that would damage these solar panels and endanger the water supply for the town of Nicholsville. It's a pretty big gamble. Pretty big gamble. As I said, solar farms may be in the best interest of Scott County, and I suspect they are. But it all comes down to location, and any way you look at this, whether it's possible damage to a wetland or the possible destruction of aquifers upon which the town of Nicholsville depends, or the impact of the folks that you have heard from and will hear about that live near there, this is a bad location. If either of those conditions existed, it should be a red flag that perhaps that project is considered is maybe for the wrong location. In this case, we have 3 of those conditions that are red flags. That ought to help you make the right decision. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
In your time frame since 2009, storm damage, any damage, have you had any toxins to go out into the land and into water? Since 2009? No.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
I wanted to address the toxins that come from the panels. It's silica, it's sand, glass, and a gas that's inside of windows. It's not water soluble. It contains a little silver. And I may not like the way Aunt Myrtle's panties look like on a clothesline, but it don't make any sense for me to tell her she can't hang them on the clothesline. We may not like a lot of things the way they look, but you can't tell somebody what they can do with their property. What's the difference of having a solar site that poses no risk that we know of, toxins, they're above schools and everything else? What's the difference in that? Having visible junkyards on a land that do leak different kind of chemicals, that do sit above creek beds. We can put up with that, or eyesore. We can put up with those toxins, but we can't put up with a solar site. That's just my 2 cents.
Thank you for your Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Mark McCarty, live up in Nicholsville, Long Holler. 99% in here don't have to get out and get firewood like me and my wife does. I'm the only one in here that has a prosthetic leg. I have to have it charged every night. I use a BiPAP machine, have to use it every night. I'm afraid to go to sleep without it. Years ago, I was diagnosed with sleep apnea because when you snore, if anybody knows about it, that's your brain saying you need to wake up. I'm afraid to go to sleep without my BiPAP machine because I might not wake up. I'd probably be better off if I didn't wake up. But we get out and we cut our own firewood, try to reduce AEP's high dollar prices on electricity. And I guarantee if it goes through, we've got a 30-year-old son, 4 grandbabies, and a granddaughter. They will see great benefits in change. That's what Scott County needs, is change for the future. That's all I got to say.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else?
Good morning, folks. I'm Gary Broadwater, live in Nicholsville, right across the road from our solar farm project.
I'm sure you all know that Scott County is probably the second or third largest land mass in the Commonwealth. Thousands and thousands of acres, good acres. Numerous places all over the Scott County to build these that don't affect what Nicholsville could possibly face. There's solar companies right now that's coming into Scott County. They're popping up just like dry land fish. They're everywhere, or will be everywhere. I ask the board to be very selective on where you all approve these solar farms when you've got thousands and thousands of acres of good places to put them. I ask the board for this particular solar farm, reject it, but no on this particular one. And look very selective at the future to where the rest of them is going to go. Thank you.
Anybody else?
My name is Greg Porter. I live in Bluffville, Tennessee, but I do own property in Nicholsville. Approximately just a rock throw from where Mr. Harr's going to put his farm. The majority of people in here right now, if someone come in and say, I'm going to put solar panels on your home, free of cost, would you go for it? Yes. Majority of people will. I see no negative in this solar farm, nothing. The only thing I see is just like a picture on the wall. If you don't want to see it, don't look at it. Or if it's just appearance, if that shouldn't downfall this. That's the only measure that it has right now is appearance. There's no fault. There's nothing with solar. I speak highly and I support the solar farm. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. I guess with that, we'll call public expression for this particular permit closed. Now we'll move into discussion.
Take a break.
Can we have our discussion and then before we go on to the next one? Would that be okay? Okay, let's go ahead and have our discussion before we go into the second one. We'll do that. Sorry. I just want to make sure everything's fresh and everyone's good. Is there any discussion from anyone?
Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
I do live in the Nicholsville area.
Yes.
I've received messages from both sides, and both of them are very compelling, as been stated today. We have previously approved the solar farm in Rock Cove, and I did go out and visit with the landowner, and there was one house I could see from that location. And I went to the house and asked them if they were okay with the solar farm. And they were. This board did pass that on a unanimous vote for. However, I see this project as being different. It's in a residential community. The Planning Commission, which is the first step in this process, voted no on this project. The town of Nicholsville, the town council, and the mayor has said that from their perspective, they do not recommend this project. I think this is a residential agriculture community, and they're asking for rezoning, but in the way I see it, I'm opposed to that position. Thank you.
Anyone else have any other thoughts?
I'd like to ask Pivot Energy a question. Someone told me that there had been a solar farm put in, and they went in and took it down. I don't know where it's at. It's just somebody told me this, don't know whether it's true to it or not. But they took it down, and the person that owned the property went in, was gonna plow the land up and reseed it. And they came in and told them, no, they could not do that for so many years. Have you heard of anything like that?
Are you talking about after the solar farm was put in place? That's not true. That's not how we
They
would.
put it in and then took it, after the years was up, they took it down. And,
Yeah, you can use it immediately. So when we decommission the project, we have a whole plan and a bond in place. But when we decommission the project, we will take everything out of the ground and restore the property to how it was prior to putting them into the ground.
so they go ahead, plow the ground.
Yes,
and do
correct.
something, right?
Immediately, there's no restrictions.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know where it was something in the fine print. Somebody told me that, I don't know whether there's any truth to it or not.
It's a good question to be asking. Thank you.
The other comment I just want to make, we're not rezoning the parcel.
Right.
It is zoned as it is, and so
Yes.
we're not, okay, thank you.
Could I ask the young lady a question too?
Yes.
In other words, when this thing, if it does take place, would you all be responsible for any kind of contamination or anything that could leak, like the mayor said there, like his water or something? Wouldn't you all be responsible for that if there's any kind of contamination out from it?
Yes, absolutely. And we are absolutely willing to go through water quality testing and assure you that there are no issues. There are no chemicals in the panels that we will be putting into the ground. It is just silicone and aluminum piles being driven into the ground. So there are no cadmium, arsenic, or lead in the panels that we will be putting into the ground as our agreement with Silfab Solar. So just for the record, but that would be our responsibility and part of our decommissioning and everything in good faith with the county as well. Do you want me to stay up here just so that it's
Sure.
better to hear? I don't know.
One more question.
Yes, go ahead.
The parcel that's up on the hill,
Yes.
and there's an old house there.
Yes.
There's the solar panels, all of them gonna be behind that, or are they gonna come out in front of it?
So I don't know if you can pull it, you don't have to. But on our site plan, there might be a couple panels just right before the, on our proposed site plan. Like I said, it's proposed, so we have some more studies and things to do. So if we do end up needing to pull the site plan back for whatever physical reasons, that is available. But we primarily, most of the site plan will be behind that. I think they're in the barn.
Yes, there's.
It's like an old barn,
There's a
like on
barn
the
and a
hill.
house,
Yeah.
The barn,
Correct,
yes.
yes.
Daniel, go ahead and pull those maps there.
Yeah, I was like, that might be helpful just for visuals to see it. But,
For groundwater testing, what are y'all proposing? Just so we can make sure of that.
So we are proposing it, I believe, once a year for the first 5 years, and then every 5 years after that. I guess I'm curious, and I can get up with the Nicholsville community as well, as just as far as where the wells are located, and I'm sure that once we start to do that testing, all of that will come up. But yeah, just kind of curious on that aspect.
So annually for the first 5 years, and then once a year, or once every 5 years.
Correct.
The one up on the hill, is that the one on the right?
Yes, the one up, you can go to the next slide.
Where's the-
There we go. Yes, so this is the specific project that we're speaking of now. So there are a few panels in front of that, and but primarily most of them will be behind.
Looks like about half of them's in front. On that.
Sorry?
It looks like over half of them is up on the front of that house. Is that the house that I'm seeing a little white
House is here,
Yeah, the house is
and here's the
correct.
road.
Correct.
So there would be approximately, they're starting back here and moving forward, so there could be an acre or so in front of the house, but that's still, there's another trailer here. So this is about 700 feet or so from the road.
And I believe the highest point is just before the house.
And that road is going into the side, right?
That's
It's
my
not
drive,
the main road.
that's a driveway of mine, yes.
Yes.
This here, my property goes all the way down here to the road, so from here back is around 700 feet. There's also a mobile home here, and there's another building there that also, you would see the mobile home before you would see the panels.
And the thing I wanted to just point out again is that they're fixed tilt panels, so they're not going to be moving throughout the day. They're all going to be facing south, which currently is how they're oriented. So north being up here, they're going to be facing this direction for the sun, for just maximum sun exposure throughout the day. So none of them will be facing Twin Springs Road. They're facing the opposite direction.
The light green around the counter, what is that?
That is currently our proposed vegetation buffer. So we put vegetation buffer typically in between wherever we're building panels and any residential homes. Happy to expand that as well and also collect feedback from the neighbors who will be nearby and living next to the vegetation buffer and seeing the vegetation buffer and just understand, what would you like to see? Is there anything specifically that, you know, grows best here that, you know, will help grow a little bit thicker throughout the years?
Mr. Harwell, the mobile home you mentioned, will it remain?
I don't know for sure. The home, that mobile home is not my mobile home. It belongs to someone else. I could request that it be moved at any time. I have not done so, but it is there. If it was to be moved, the vegetation barrier, the buffer, they would be planting things on the front also. So you're either going to look at trees and shrubs, or you're going to look at an old single wide home that was left abandoned there when I purchased the property 10 years ago.
We're open to vegetation if people have specific requests, open to putting it wherever it makes the most sense. That's just where we currently have it proposed.
Any other comments or questions from the board? I'll just say, from my perspective, having the energy independence and allowing people to get value off their land. Scott County is the 15th largest county in Virginia, and it has a wealth of land. But if you can't get value off of it, then there's no use to owning it, really. And I recognize that, you know, Mr. Har will be getting value off of this, and we'll be using the land in I think, an acceptable way. And that's just where I land on it. Is everybody ready to take a vote? And we'll see where it lands. I've got a little bit to read here for that. Oh, sorry, I do have one other question. You said $25,000 to Nicholsville Fire Department. Is that a one-time payout, or is that annually,
That is
or
a one-time.
one-time payout? Okay.
I'd like to say something.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I didn't think that.
Before, maybe we have, we've heard them say that they must more or less take responsibility of any kind of water or anything like that.
Correct.
Okay. Now, I've heard the board here, or people here speak, they all brought up some pretty good comments. Yes, they asked me $45,000 to put solar panels on my house. Yes, I'd love to have them, but I don't think I'm ever gonna live long enough to, my light bill to pay $45,000. I've been watching a house since I've been 16 years old in North Carolina. It's a fine piece of property, okay? It's the first ones I ever seen with solar panels. I've been going through there, going to Marion, North Carolina, Carver City, twice, 3 times a day for over 35 years. Every time I go by there, I look at the house because it's been an eye popper to me ever since I've been 16 years old. And it was the first one I ever seen. I've seen it on the roof. I've never seen a rusty spot on that roof. The yard is perfect. I mean, it's well groomed, one of the best I've ever seen. I've watched the yard to see the gutters, anything when it's down, then it's a creek. Now, that means I've been watching it for 50 years because I've already told my age now. And I ain't seen anything that the grass is dead or anything. I'm sure they probably put a roof on it in that many years. But if they have, I can't say that I could ever tell no difference. People says they're ugly, okay? That's difference of opinions. I see things uglier. One thing that I'll say that feedlots, I don't know what you get any uglier than that. The next thing is contamination. I'll say that's a runoff. We'll just use the whole Copper Creek area. We all see cattle in it, runoff, and Gate City's a given, and water. I can find faults in everything. Right now, they're saying they're going to take responsibility. I've heard that Appalachia Power, we're all being burned out by them. Matter of fact, some of us was in Richmond last year, and we all heard it. Appalachia Power is 44% higher than Powell Valley Power. I'd say that's what I'd call being robbed, wouldn't y'all? Now, anything that I can see is going to help the citizens to keep the taxes down and keep y'all from jumping on me, I'm for it. And I don't know how to explain it no better than I just did.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo. All right, well, I'll read a little bit here and ask for a motion, and then we will take a roll call vote for this. Whereas the Board of Supervisors finds that the proposed solar project meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance for the issuance of a special use permit, including the requirement in zoning ordinance section 500-124.1 that the proposal shall generally conform to the latest comprehensive plan of Scott County, and therefore pursuant to Virginia Code section 15.2-2232 subsection H, the Board of Supervisors waives the requirement for a substantial accord review by the Planning Commission, and further finds pursuant to zoning ordinance section 500-124.2 that the proposal shall have the minimum adverse impact to surrounding neighborhood or community, the proposal having been evaluated with consideration given to the proposed conditions to mitigate any such adverse impacts. Now, therefore, I move that the Board of Supervisors approve the issuance of special use permit for parcel 72-A-77 as requested by the applicant Vivid Energy, subject to the conditions presented here by the applicants today. That includes the groundwater testing, that includes the support of the Nicholsville Fire Department. Do I have a motion to that effect?
Yeah.
Okay. We have an initial. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
A second. Mr. Dingus, if you could collect a roll call vote for us, please.
Mr. Jeter?
No.
Ms. Glover?
Yes.
Mr. Skeen?
No.
Mr. Bricky?
Yes.
Mr. Castile?
Yes.
Mr. Manus?
Yes.
Ms. Addington?
No.
Mr. Chairman, you have 4 yeses, 3 noes.
All right, the motion passes. And we will take a break for be back here at 11:15, please. All right, we'll open it back up. We're a little later than I wanted to be. But we'll go into the public hearing for a special use permit application submitted by Pivot Energy for tax map 71-A-67C on Twin Springs Road, Nicholsville, Virginia, to use the parcel as a solar generation facility. Mr. Williams, I guess he done gave his portion. Do you want to present a second time on this?
Yes, I was just letting him know it's essentially. Actually, yeah. That right there. Yeah, start. Thank you. So this is very much similar presentation, so we don't have to go through all of it again. Wanted to go over Copperidge 2. So our proposed site plan looks a little different than what we had originally submitted. Because we've been receiving a lot of feedback on the project as far as view shed goes. This was the project site that definitely had more of that view shed impact off of Nicholsville Highway and Twin Springs Road. So we actually downsized the project. Our project is now 3.5 megawatts instead of the original 5 megawatts. This allowed us to take some panels out of the original site plan, reduce the overall footprint by a few acres, and pull it back off of Nicholsville Highway and Twin Springs Road 200 feet. So typically, I think in the ordinance, it's supposed to be at least 150 feet off the road. So now we are over 200 feet off of the roads, and it's exceedingly hot further from the residential butters as well, over 200 feet. Again, we've got the green line around the project. There are certain angles along Twin Spring Road. We did a view shed analysis that I believe I submitted in the special use permit application. You can see just like where our gaps are as far as, okay, driving along the road, you know, where are some areas where we can see. So additional buffering we are open to, like I mentioned before, and buffering on that western side of the parcel, especially as you're driving on Nicholsville Road. Happy to work with, you know, the neighbors if they want to put some buffering on their property, or if we are just strictly going to be putting buffering and vegetation on our parcel, open to both. But just wanted to note that we've got all that vegetation buffer around, and also pulled back from the road a few extra 50 plus feet. Again, the point of interconnection will also be off of Twin Springs Road at that three-phase line that exists there, and again, following that three-phase line to the Copperidge substation that is about 4 miles northwest. Go to the next one.
Ms. Cruz, did you say you downsized to 3.5?
Correct, 3.5 megawatts. So because of that, tax revenue has changed just a little bit, being that it's not being that it's not 5 megawatts anymore. The way that the revenue share rate and the way that the original value of the property is a little bit less because it's not as big of a project. So again, just the refreshed revenue share rate is $1,400 per megawatt per year. And then the machinery and tools tax rate uses the local real estate tax rate. So it's a little bit different now that we've downsized it. In the revenue analysis, happy to provide you with my physical revenue analysis proposal. It just looks a little wordy and aggressive for an Excel sheet to just be clicked on a PowerPoint slide. So highlighted it here for you. But at the bottom there you can see, looked at what machinery and tools tax revenue brings in versus the revenue share rate. Both of them significantly different from each other throughout the life of the project. The cool thing about how Virginia taxes solar projects is that you can flip back and forth. So 1 year, machinery and tools tax is going to bring in more revenue to the county. You can go with the machinery and tools tax for that year. The next year, it's going to be revenue share. You can go with that one. So I have higher of the two options there because that kind of has
every other year or whatever the layout was specifically for the 40 years, you can flip back and forth. You can't use them at the same time, but it's nice because it allows you to maximize the amount of revenue that could come in. So using both of these tax rates on top of what the current tax revenue is for the 65 acres brings in a little under $10,000. And again, calculated that out over the 40 years, looking at just about $400,000 for the 3.5 megawatt project. We already kind of went through shared solar, so same thing goes for this one. You need a land use permit in order to apply and secure capacity for the shared solar program, and that way we can offer the benefits to you all. Go to the next one. Perfect. So similar thing, because we downsized the project to 3.5 megawatts, we're not producing as much power as we would be with the 5 megawatt project. So the amount of customers that we're able to serve with the 3.5 megawatt projects is a little bit less than the 5 megawatts. Looking at the, again, PVSys engineering analysis that our engineers put together that look at, okay, peak performance for a 3.5 megawatt project, given the seasons, given the location, this is on average how many customers can be served from the 3.5 megawatt project. So we're looking at about 500 customers, specifically here. Again, it's still that 10% savings that you're gonna see on a subscription, just a few less customers than the 5 megawatt. But again, calculated out, still significant amount of money, over $100,000 annually that gets saved by customers that can subscribe, as well as over 40 years, $4.4 million. So again, revenue or savings that Scott County residents get to keep and invest in their children's futures and their other things that are meaningful to them. Again, we're planning to have holistic approaches to putting native grasses and forbs on site. You can probably scroll through a couple of these. Also planning to have sheep grazing on site and work with the local farmers for that. Thanks. Similar thing. But our community benefits package will look a little bit different as well since we've downsized the project to 3.5 megawatts. So we're looking at about $17,500 for the community donation. Again, I know that Nicholsville Fire and Rescue were identified as the recipient of this. So it's definitely someone that we've connected with and are planning to make an official donation to. So that is our plan. Diligence here looks a little bit different because it is a little bit to the east of the other site. In that 0.5 mile radius, Bushnell is not affected, and that 0.5 mile radius is further visually impacted. Also, like we had mentioned, Bushnell is down on a smaller, lower slope than the project area is, so there should be no visual impact. And again, the points that did come up within that 0.5 mile radius during the recent surveys were not surveyed as historic. So here we have, this also really just wanted to point out, helps us figure out where on the project to put panels. So we don't only want to put panels in an area where there's a stream or there's a pond or something already existing. We want to know where those features are, so that way, like I said, when we have our stormwater management plan, we're able to include those, understand where the water naturally likes to drain when it rains. So the reason for our site plan existing in the area that it does is because it is heavily sloped towards the back side of the project or the property, and there are also streams and ponds on the back side of the property that we want to avoid when building. Thank you. Same thing, Fish and Wildlife study here, just to let us know if there's anything endangered or has a critical habitat on the property. And we did not get any feedback from U.S. Fish and Wildlife that there was anything on site that we needed to avoid or make sure that we are not building during their feeding season or anything like that. Again, just to reiterate, this has to go before DEQ and make sure that that all gets approved prior to issuing any sort of building permit. Just a summary from this specific project, a little under $400,000 in tax revenue over the 40 years, Still saving 10% subscribers, just not able to serve as many customers with the downsize of the project to 3.5 megawatts. But that does mean our footprint's a little bit smaller. We're able to pull it back from the roads, Nicholsville Highway and Twin Springs Road, and just try to minimize the view shed there as well. So that is Copper Ridge 2.
Given that you've already had one approved, what is your breaking ground estimate on starting the project?
Timeline? Yeah. So Copper Ridge 1 does have its studies back from Appalachian Power. We are anticipating an interconnection agreement with Appalachian Power in the next few months. We also need an interconnection agreement signed and executed with them in order to apply to the shared solar program. So we are planning to do that with Copper Ridge 1. That timeline is looking at the earliest for construction, late fall of 2026. Due to needing to go through some more geotechnical work, we have to do some phase 1 ESA studies, just some more diligence specifically on ground, and then we also have to make sure that we go through, apply for the shared solar program and secure that capacity. So a few more items to, hoops to jump through, items to check off, but yeah, that's when we can anticipate construction starting. And as far as that timeline goes, like 6 to 9 months, depending on weather and all of that as well. That's generally.
Build both of these at the same time, right?
I think we would probably build the first one and then it would lead into the second.
Okay.
But they would be both in their phases.
I'd imagine that solar technology is going to advance in the next 40 years. So as that happens and you have panels that may be more efficient or can produce more energy, will you all be trading out panels as you go?
Absolutely.
So this 3.5 could make more kilowatts, or how would that work?
So the reason that it is at a certain megawatt is specifically because of the grid capacity. So the grid that we're interconnecting into can only, and especially if we're not changing the 3-phase line on Twin Springs Road, if we're not like significantly building a new substation or significantly upgrading it, there's only so much energy that could be produced for the lines to support.
So your
They could get more efficient,
gets
though.
smaller as
Potentially.
it gets more efficient.
Yeah, we've actually had a few of our projects recently in a few other states where our footprint has decreased because we're using more efficient modules. Okay. Same capacity though, because we don't want to mess that up with the utility. They're expecting 3.5 megawatts, that's what they're going to get, but our footprint could decrease. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Just briefly, I've got a unique perspective on when we reworked things a little bit and pushed those panels back from the road. That was in response to, the community did not want to be able to see solar. They wanted to be hidden away. And respecting the ordinance of Scott County, when you come in on the Nicholsville Highway now, that's going to be a full 200 feet off of the road, which is taking the solar ordinance. It far exceeds the solar ordinance by pushing that back 200 feet. And anybody that has traveled up through there knows that there's about a 10 or 12 foot bank before you get up into that field. So if you stop in the road, you're looking directly at a bank, 10 foot tall, and then there's a fence, and then you're going to go back 200 feet. So the view shade there will be virtually non-existent. You may see just briefly as you come into town off of 71, and that's the major travel thoroughfare. So at that point, yes, we are paying a little less taxes. Yes, we're unable to help a few more people, but in the spirit of compromise, we have to do what will get approved, and we have to do what the community thinks is best. I believe that how we have pushed this back from everything, it gives more of a vegetation barrier, and it gives a more distance barrier overall. So this project specifically is even different than the other project that's been voted on. You're not going to have the issue as far as seeing this project as much. From Twin Springs Road, there is a small spot that if you stopped in the road, you would be able to look over and see the project. But with how far it's pushed back and the amount of vegetation, you'd have to make a concerted effort to be able to see the project. Thank you.
All right. With that, I'll open up the floor for public comment. If anyone would like to speak. You'll maybe be an auctioneer.
I would just ask that the same viewpoints from the previous project just be respected by the board. Most people that spoke, a lot of the folks have left. Their opinions, I believe, were the same on both projects. The petition was the same. The petition that I provided to the board described both projects. The letters of support that the board received, approximately, I believe the board received about 20 letters of support, and I believe there was maybe 7 or 8 letters in opposition, but both of those, I've reviewed what you received in opposition. I've reviewed what you've received in support, and those opinions both speak to both projects from what I could see.
Good morning, I'm Robert Sally, and just a question, I guess, about the solar panels. I know I've been involved in some projects a little bit similar to this with my job. But with this, as far as, I guess, a question related to them, and maybe I've missed this point, and if I have, I apologize for covering it again. But with the solar panels that's being installed, is it actually a backup power system too, or is it just power that's going onto the grid? So if it's something like during the storm times or whatever, whenever we lost power for days or whatever, if it's something that we lost power for 36 hours or 48 like we did this past year, is it actually a backup power supply, or is it just go back to the grid during normal power?
I can speak to that. I've had a electrical company look at that. Mr. Chad Davis was not able to be here with us. This power goes directly into the grid, so if there is some loss of power from a transmission line coming in, this solar system puts the power directly out on the lines, so it could strengthen the grid and preserve the power stability for probably the first closest 1,000 homes to the facility. Now, if it's out overnight, obviously there wouldn't be power through the night, but if there was a interruption of power during the daytime, it would power as much homes as it possibly could in a circle to the project. So it would strengthen the grid significantly for 6 or 7 miles or so in a circle around the project. And what happens is if one area goes down, the transmission, it's like a breaker trips. So if there's a transmission line coming down in and the main source is coming out, that's just another power source on the grid. And you can't predict how many people it would cover. It would depend on what the current demand for power was occurring at the time. If everybody had their air conditioner on and it was 90 degrees, it may last a lot fewer homes than if it was in the spring or fall when we're not having a strong demand on our use.
Thank you.
And there will not be any battery storage. There will not be any battery storage.
Any other public comment? All right, we'll close public comments. Board members, do y'all have any thoughts?
So in other words, it could help the schools have power in the daytime if it was to go out.
The school would have power, yes.
And businesses.
and businesses in Nicholsville. They can backfeed that if they isolate that. So basically, the people who live closest to the project, the people across the street, the neighbors, the school, they would have, it would be backfed and they would benefit first.
That'd be really nice, especially with, you know, Hurricane Helene coming through. The school lost a lot of food because they lost power.
But that's the thing, I mean, I guess kind of getting into that, asking that question, is it also dedicated as a backup power supply?
It's not.
Because for us, we have we have walk-in freezers and coolers that obviously run overnight, so I mean.
It's not a backup power supply, but in times of crisis or snow or things like that, if your freezer ran at power all day long, you may not lose your food overnight if it didn't run during the nighttime. So it's not designated as a backup power, but it strengthens the power. You would probably have power at least 12 hours out of the day, which I would imagine would keep most freezers can go overnight without actually kicking on. If you know, I've got a chest freezer, and if you walk by that, a lot of times it never kicks on at night, maybe just a minute or two, but it would be running 12 hours a day. So it's not a designated backup, but during the daytime, you would still have power.
Mr. Selly, the way it was explained to the Planning Commission, you know, we had the substation above Twin Springs up on Copper Ridge. If a power outage were to occur along that line, the line side toward the solar system, solar farm could be energized. So, you know, if you had a tree go down on the line between the substation and Twin Springs High School could still have power. But if that happened between Twin Springs High School and the solar farm, Nicholsville could still have power, but Twin Springs may be out.
Thank
you. So in our ordinance, we designate that the vegetative barrier needs to grow at 3 foot per year. Is that what I remember, or is it 2 foot?
3.
I'm pretty sure it's 3 foot. So with that, with the view shed as it is, the vegetative barrier would probably cover most of any visual impact in a couple of years.
Yes, yes, sir.
It's interesting. Any other comments, questions, concerns?
And I would make a comment that this project here is not in Nicholsville town limits, and this project is majority on Highway 71, so it is not, there's a very small portion of it is on Twin Springs Road as the map shows, so it's not across, most of that land on the other side is Mr. C.M. Bond, who was here in support of the project.
The other thing that just to reiterate, these are going to be fixed tilt panels, so the way that the panels will be facing will be south, which is south of Twin Springs Road as well. So they'll be facing to the south.
You know, when I think about these projects a lot, I think about, you know, sorry, Mr. Hart, if this is being too personal, but I think of the farmers that may eventually want to do this on their farm, and the additional income, the supplemental income that they could get from that. Now, that might not make much of a difference in your case. You're doing pretty well, but oftentimes it only takes one bad year for a farm to go under, right?
And I can tell you, you know, when I got into the cattle business, you could buy a steer for $600 or $700. 12 years ago, you could buy one for $600 or $700. If you go to the market now, you're going to pay $2,100 for that same animal. So for the farmer, the risk of farming has tripled in the last 10 years, because if you have a pullback in prices, you know, people who are running steers may go out and borrow You know, where they used to borrow $200,000, now they're borrowing $1 million to operate for a year. So most farmers could, if you had a bad year, you might lose $20,000 or $30,000 in a bad year. Now a bad year can cost you $300,000 or $400,000. So there's not a lot of farmers that are financially sound enough to take a $300,000 or $400,000 hit. It's enough to take their head off. So having something that's a guaranteed source of income to supplement is very important for people who are trying to maintain a farm. The expenses are astronomical to maintain a farm, and the inflation for the farming community is what I call delayed inflation. It's delayed because we only replace tractors and equipment and trucks ever so often. So a lot of the farmers of this county has not yet experienced the sticker shock that they're going to have when they try to go buy a new hay baler or try to go buy a new farm truck or a new tractor. Instead of writing a check for $75,000 like they would have a few years ago, they're going to write a $150,000 check. So the farmers need everything that they can do to have a blended source of income and not have all their eggs in one basket if they're trying to make a living on farming.
All right, does anyone else on the board have any questions, comments? All right, we'll go on with this and say, whereas the Board of Supervisors finds that the proposed solar project meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance for the issuance of the special use permit, including the requirement in the zoning ordinance section 500-124-1 that the proposal shall generally conform to the latest comprehensive plan of Scott County, and therefore pursuant to Virginia Code Section 15.2-2232, subsection H, the Board of Supervisors waives the requirement for a substantial accord review by the Planning Commission, and further finds pursuant to zoning ordinance section 500-124.2 that the proposal shall have the minimum adverse impact on the surrounding neighborhood or community. The proposal having been evaluated with consideration given the proposed conditions to mitigate any such adverse impacts. Now therefore, I move that the Board of Supervisors approve issuance of the special use permit for parcel 72-A-67C as requested by the applicant Pivot Energy, subject to the conditions that were presented in the presentation here today. Do I have a motion to do that?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? Mr. Dingus, can you give us a roll call vote, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Jeter?
No.
Ms. Glover?
Yes.
Mr. Skeen?
No.
Mr. Bricky?
Yes.
Mr. Castile?
Yes.
Mr. Manus?
Yes.
Ms. Addington?
No.
You have 4 yeses, 3 noes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, with that, we have concluded the public hearings for today. And we'll move on to unfinished business. 6-year plan for secondary roads, Mr. Dingus.
I want to go through the process of what I'm asking for today and what you can expect in the next couple of months. Today, each board member is invited to propose a road for inclusion in the VDOT 6-year plan. After receiving your road submissions today, I will forward them to VDOT for evaluation. They will determine if each proposed road qualifies for consideration. If the road meets the qualifications, VDOT will provide a scope of work and cost estimate. At your May meeting, either I or ideally Alan Summer with VDOT will present the proposed roads along with their cost estimates and available funding. The board will need to prioritize the rank of the roads until the funding is allocated. So he'll come back with the road you propose and what it would cost and tell you how much money you got. So you would need to pick from those roads based on the available funding, which ones you want to put on a 6-year plan. Once the board selects the road or roads for inclusion, a public hearing will take place at your June Board of Supervisors meeting. So at this time, I will need a road submission from each member if you have one. Mr. Skeen has maps.
Does anybody
Someone
need county maps
wants
for the roads?
Yeah, I'd like to, I'll get one later, but
I'll just go down the line as I have you on the agenda. Mr. Jeter.
I don't have one.
Ms. Glover.
Well, I have two. I'm gonna go with Timber Tree Branch.
Timber Tree Branch. Is that lane or road? Okay. Mr. Skeen.
Dean Hollow Road, Nicholsville.
Is that from the bridge to?
That's just the unfinished portion.
Unfinished
In the
portion?
middle, I think
Yeah.
about a half mile.
I think it's paved down to the bridge, isn't it? And then
It's on past the bridge.
On past the
Before you
bridge.
get to the top of the bridge.
Okay.
That's the intersection.
Mr. Bricky.
I've looked for the past 2 years, and I've asked Bill and the county administrator to look around Gate City, and I can't find the road in Gate City that's not paved. Now, Mineral Hill up next to Antioch, I got it on a 6-year plan 4 or 5 years ago, possibly. But at first I said I wouldn't turn one in, but if I could turn my allotment, my recommendation, whatever, it'd be Snowflake. If you.
The remainder of Snowflake Road that,
Yes.
that they hadn't put on the 6-year plan?
Yes.
Mr. Castile.
Daniels Holler. I think it's Road 777. The number on it.
That's a lane, isn't it? It dead ends up there.
Yeah.
Say that road number again, please.
777.
777. Mr. Maines.
Ford Branch Road.
What was that again?
Ford Branch Road.
Miss Addington.
Hill Springs Road, from Midway Road, beginning at Midway Road.
What was the name?
Hill Springs.
So you're wanting to start at Midway and go
Yes.
that way if they have to do a section?
Yeah, they have to do a section,
Yeah, okay.
because it's all gravel.
All right, so I'll submit these roads. I'll submit these road names to Mr. Sumner probably tomorrow, and they'll start their evaluation and consideration, see if they qualify and get the rest.
All right, on to new business. 9A, High Knob Music Festival, Buddy Day.
Buddy's been waiting patient.
I'm sorry. We had a lot to do this morning.
You're busy.
that.
Very busy. Well, we thank you for taking the time to let us present our update for this year. And may I approach with handouts? My name is Buddy Delp, Big Stone Gap, and this is...
I'm Jenny Branham. I'm with the High Knob Music Festival.
Yes. Again, we thank you all. I know you all have a bunch of work to do, and we appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you. We're working again right now, planning this year's festival. We've selected our bands, and we appreciate the sponsorship and partnership that you all have given us over the years. Without you, I don't think we would be able to do this. We're solely volunteer. We put on a volunteer or a free music festival. We provide everything that they need. MELC Transport provides transportation. They usually run 3 buses up there to bring people, to make it as inexpensive on families as we possibly can. They literally can bring their entire family to Norton and catch a bus there and go on top of the mountain and stay all day for the festival. We're unique in that we not only allow families to bring a cooler with their sandwiches and their drinks and so forth, but we encourage that. One of the main things that we're trying to do is to get our young people, our families out into the forest to appreciate the beauty that we live in and be able to pass it on to other people. So we're trying to make this absolutely inexpensive for a family to come up and enjoy a day together. We all know now, if you're a couple with 2 or 3 kids, you can go out and it may cost you $100 just to go get a meal these days. It's pretty tough, and we're arranging this so that people can bring their families, and it really costs them nothing if they want to bring their food. But we also set up a tent and we prepare food. Our volunteers prepare food that we sell, but we keep our prices at a minimum, and our menu's not extravagant, but we do have food. When we first started this, a lot of people asked us why we didn't have food, and we were just getting started out, and we said, well, we really wanted to make it to where you just bring your own food and come out, but if people wanted it, we decided we'll go ahead and provide simple food for them. But at any rate, we are serving, we serve as a subcommittee to the High Knob Enhancement Corporation, and they are our fiscal sponsor. And we're in our 11th year this year. We've grown old putting this festival.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I want to talk about.
Yes.
Is us getting old, too old to do it, but it's something that we don't want to see die with us, because it's so close to Scott County, Wise County. That recreation area of the High Knob recreation area has so much history, and we know that the Forest Service was going to close it, and we started this music festival to make it viable again and to keep that from happening. And so selling food is one of the ways that we raise the money to put the festival on and keep it free. But right now, because of lack of funding for the Forest Service and staff to help them maintain these rec areas, they're not even able to mow and weed eat. So we are having to, we did it ourselves until we're too old to do it. So last year it cost us $550 just to get it weeded and mowed for the festival. So all these things have come to bear on us, and we just, we need help from all, this county, Wise County,
that's why we're here, asking what you could do to help us keep it going.
Scott County has been amazing in its partnership with us, supporting what we're trying to do. And if there's some way that we can even strengthen that relationship to where you all would have more say-so or input into what we're doing on the mountain, because we feel like it serves Scott County equally with Wise County. Truthfully, if you had a good arm, you could just about throw a softball down the road to Scott County from where we're at High Knob Recreation Area. So if there's something that you can contribute or that you would like to see done in addition to what we're doing, we would be open to that. We're strictly a volunteer group, and we love the mountain, we love High Knob, and we love our region, and we love our families, and we're trying to do something really good. And I think over the years we get a lot of good feedback. But
we do need volunteers.
Yeah.
Because we're running thin, we're getting old, and like I said, we don't want it to die with us. We want the place to stay open and alive, and for people to enjoy the things that, I mean, my grandmother used to take me there. You know what I'm saying? It's a special place, but yeah.
I'll remind the board that we are part of the High Knob Municipal Corporation. I represent the county on that board. I know that High Knob Lake, where the festival takes place, is in Wise County. But when we go to High Knob, we don't think about going to Wise County or going to Scott County. We go to Bar Camp Lake and Bill Stony Falls, which is in Scott County, or High Knob Lake, or the Tower, which is in Wise County. But it's our national forest, and it's good that we're involved in these kinds of festivals.
It's important. A lot of people, we want to draw people to the area, so you gotta have a place to sleep and stay at camps.
Well, we encourage the board to consider having a more active role in helping with maintenance. Anything that you think that you may be able to do to push this forward and promote it on this side of the mountain, we're doing everything that we can do. And we understand times are really hard for you all, Wise County, our region. So we understand you have very many limitations in what you can do.
And it's community effort. This is not the only board we've been to, nor the last.
Right.
So.
Well, one thing I wanted to make sure that I mentioned, for several years we have been raising money and working with the Forest Service to be able to build a handicapped accessible observation platform at High Knob Recreation Area overlooking the stage. We've got we've got the drawings. We've got the Forest Service on board. They have given us a verbal approval to go ahead and begin building this handicapped accessible platform. And we had hoped that we would have it done before June the 14th. That is our festival date. We're not absolutely sure we're going to be able to do that, but that is our goal, to try to have it ready this year for the festival. But that's really putting, we got to really work hard. We've raised $6,000 so far towards building this platform, and we think that that's enough with some of our labor helping out to build it. We have a contractor that would be open to that. If we can get some more people in the community to come up and just help carry boards and lay boards down.
Can you email me a list of work days?
Yes.
And I can get that out to people that might be interested.
And also on Monday evening, three of us are planning on going up to the recreation area and see what it looks like. And I talked with Brandon Olinger with Forest Service on yesterday over email and told him we were planning on going. He said he may join us, but be prepared because Helene and some of these storms have done some damage, so we don't know what we're looking at. Huh?
I say it has done some damage.
Yeah. Hopefully being down in that bowl has helped, but yeah. But
Do you have a specific amount that you're asking for today?
We would like to request $1,000. That would help us a lot. I think that's what we requested last year, and you all were able to give us 900. And Mr. Mance, I think you, I couldn't believe it.
Put in $100.
I know $100, you know, it's not a huge amount of money, but, you know, it hit me right in the heart. I was calling people on the way home going, you won't believe this. But at any rate, at the bottom of the flyer that I handed out to you, it has how to get checks to us. And the checks are in the High Enhancement Corporation Festival account, my name, address, and so forth are in there, my phone number. And I will make sure that we, as we organize a work day or work days, I'll get that information to you.
When do you need this?
Excuse me?
When do you need this money by?
We really need it. We don't. Our biggest payout doesn't come till the day of the festival because it's in paying our sound technician. I think, and I'll just be open with this. I think he and I is a high-tech sound engineer. This year's costing us $1,800. It's a lot of money, but there's no reason to have good bands on the stage, good music, if you don't put it out through the system. And so we'll have about around $6,000 tied up just in the bands and the sound engineering. So as long as we have it like sometime by the end of May or something like that, 2 weeks before the festival, because really our buying all of our things just kind of expenditures kind of pile in toward the end. We do have to pay for liability insurance.
Security.
Yeah, we've got security. We have to pay for security people to be there. It runs into a lot of money.
Porta johns.
Yeah, to have porta johns there cost about $1,000.
How many people is attending?
About 2,500, we guess.
And,
that's
and they come and stay as long as they can or need to, and then they leave and another bus pulls up. So it's we're talking
Y'all
numbers
should
about.
come. You would see what a great festival it is and how much potential it really has to be something special.
Are you working any with Scott County Tourism?
We have talked with Wise County Tourism in the past, and that's one of the things I was going to ask if there's and my contact information is on here. Probably be easier for them to contact me. But I think you have a new tourism director now, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I would be glad to talk about some of this work that we're doing with your tourism director if I could be contacted.
What's the name of your tourism?
Brittany Robertson.
Brittany Robertson.
I'll connect you on.
Okay, very good.
As far as funding goes, we have some outstanding uses, obligations of the money right now, and I'm not sure how that's going to wind up. So we almost accounted. I think we have accounted for all of what's in our.
That's the current gap right now.
Okay.
BSS would have and what's available.
Okay, good. Oh, that's what I was going to ask for, is to give us time to get that current gap. So it looks like we have $2,897.78 in our contingency fund left because DSS is taking 30-some thousand.
Yes, and that could go, the 30-some thousand from DSS could dwindle down to zero, by the end of the year. But that was earmarked, so we'd have enough in there. But as each month goes along, that amount becomes less.
Yep.
So you'll have that contingency money to play with.
We thank you for whatever you can do.
One other thing I was going to tell you, which I think is unique and we feel really good about it, to open our program on High Knob Festival Day. This year, we've invited 3 different music schools to bring their most advanced students, anywhere from 6 to 10 students each, which would be anywhere from 24 to 30 students on stage playing. They all won't be playing at the same time because it'll be 3 different schools. One from Big Stone Gap, one from Norton, and one from Wise. You may have heard of the Wise Jams program. So there's 2 of those, one in Big Stone, one in Wise. So it's 3 different music schools that are growing our young musicians and teaching them to play. And one of the things that we're trying to do in working with them is to give them a big stage out in the public to show people what they're doing. And that brings, a lot of times that brings their parents, their grandparents, their siblings and cousins. And we get more people, more young people on the mountain outdoors. And I think all of this goes to one of our biggest goals is to help drive tourism and bring more people into this region. So I think it's beautiful when you can do 2 things. You can grow your new musicians coming up and help them, and it helps our festival by bringing more people up there to it, because a lot of people will come and they'll stay. If they don't stay all day, they'll stay a pretty good while. And so the other thing I want to make sure I mention is we'll have Rolling Thunder motorcycle group, veteran group, up there again this year, and they put on one of the most incredible programs that you will ever watch. It goes right to your heart. They have several different programs, so I don't know which one they will present this year. But this June 14th will be Flag Day, and so it would please me if they did the flag presentation where they compare the colors in the flag and what it represents, and all that. That's a beautiful program. Has anybody heard Rolling Thunder do their?
I've seen them do.
You know, if that doesn't make your heart warm up.
And last year they donated to us, which was big.
Yeah. Well, another one, I was about in tears when they finished up. They handed me a check for $1,000 toward this handicap platform. You know, and we're thinking.
And we don't want to stop there, because Michelle Davalos, which used to be over the Forest Service, when we mentioned the platform for wheelchair access, she was like, why stop there? Why don't you take it all the way to the lake? I mean, there's just so many possibilities that we can see happening. And yeah. And another thing I wanted to mention was, if you have a music school in Scott County, let's feature them next year, right?
Well, we might can work them in this year. It's getting tighter and scheduled, but
Scott County Superintendent's right there behind you.
Oh, okay.
Are you doing? Do you have students, music students?
We, whenever that first came about, which was several years ago, we had a lady that was very dedicated, taking the children around to different events, different venues, and it just got to the point where it was just too much for her. So we are in need of a person to take it over again, to start it up.
Indeed.
So if you know someone, please make myself or the office aware that
Certainly will.
Yeah.
it's a good program, no doubt about that.
Well, I'm a musician. We're musicians. Our group is Strawberry Jam. We've been playing for 13 years, I think, and so we love music. We love getting the kids into music, and so thank you for what you're doing. If we can help, we'll be glad to.
I guess it's been, time gets away from me, it's been maybe 3 to 5 years since we've had it.
Yes.
And love to get it started back up.
It's a beautiful thing. Get kids into music. That's a positive thing they can take with them the rest of their lives.
I'll tell you a story. One time, Buddy and I were invited to play for the grade school in Appalachia, the elementary school when it was still there, town of Appalachia, because they were having a celebration for the students who'd scholastically done really well that year. So we went down there, and it was a rainy day, and everything had been canceled outside. And they were like, can y'all stay all day instead of an hour? And we spent the whole day there playing for those students, and we were so humbled. I walked away in tears. Those kids, they loved it. They would come up and touch our instruments and try to hug us, and just, they were enthralled. And shortly after that, the museum, the Southwest Virginia Museum in Big Stone Gap, started their music school program, and it's done a lot for the youth.
Well, y'all made a good presentation, but a banjo would make it.
We'll remember that next time.
We'll bring our instruments next time.
Yeah, he's
Well, thank you all so
Thank you
much
so much.
for listening to us, and we appreciate everything you've done.
Could you tell me exactly where I signed up for?
Yes,
If you Scout
I've got it right here. It's on your handout at the top. It's Highland Recreation Area 2996, Greater Scott Road, Northern Virginia.
You know where the tower is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, if you're going, like you're going to the tower and you turn up to the right. No, when you've turned on the Tower Road and you would turn right to go on up to the tower, keep going on that road, which eventually comes out of Edith Gap, way down there. And it's a mile below the Hinock Tower. It says Hinock Recreation Area, big old sign. And it's about a mile out through there.
I hadn't been up for several years, and I've been all over it at one time or another. And I hate to say it, but I kind of got lost this time trying to find Bark Camp Lake.
Oh.
And me hauling enough logs out there, you know that there's something wrong with that. But I did kind of get confused there, and they changed the name and roads, and like I said, I guess I got older and got senile.
We're with you. Well, thank you all so much for allowing us to present to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any motion to go forward on this?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
$1,000.
$1,000? All right.
I'll second.
Second. Everybody vote, everybody in favor, vote by way of saying aye. Opposed? All right. Out of contingency. Yes.
Do we want to send that right away, or we want to delay that maybe?
We got money.
Okay.
You want to let them know to take it before they leave?
Yeah, sorry.
He already voted
I
on it.
missed that.
Yeah. We'll send you the full 1,000 this year.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bless your
Thank you.
hearts. From our hearts to yours.
Thank you all. Appreciate you.
Come to the festival.
I'll try. School board. While he's getting prepared, I just want to say we may want to switch around our agenda and have our closed session right after this, because Daryl has an appointment later, and I want him to be able to be there for that. So do we need to make a motion, or is that just an agreement between us? Okay. Everybody in agreement? Everybody okay with that? Okay. Continue. Sorry.
Thank you. First of all, good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our request. I shared with Mr. Manus over the phone, we are looking at the potential expansion upon 2 of our elementary schools simply for lack of space to perform some of the necessary services for our children and their children only. We have certain classrooms in which we have 3 or more staff members, 2 to 3 or even more staff members cramped into one room trying to perform different services for our children. In this document, you'll see a kind of an overview of the School Construction Assistance Program, and you'll see more detailed views of what we have in mind with additional classrooms both at Yuma and Weber City Elementary Schools. And the reason I'm here today, part of the application for the School Construction Assistance Program is to ask for a letter of support as we move forward, or potentially move forward with this. At this time, we do not have the exact cost of what the project will be, but Robbie has estimated that per square foot is going to be about $500 to $550 per square foot. Weber City Elementary is a little over 72 or 300 square feet. The Yuma project's about 6,600 square feet. So each project probably run anywhere from $3.5 to $4 million each. With this particular school construction assistance program, we would make application for it. If we were recipients of it, they can in turn reimburse up to 30% of the total cost. So, and part of this grant application is to get a letter of support from our governing body. The grant application in itself is due April 18th. So we'll kind of push a little bit of time in that regard.
Do you have a draft letter?
What I would ask is something to the fact that the Scott County Board of Supervisors supports Scott County Public Schools pursuing a grant for the school construction assistance program for Weber City Elementary, and the second one for Yuma Elementary, because we're going to send in 2 applications, if that makes any sense.
So you need 2 letters
Yes.
of support.
Yes, one for Weber City and the second for Yuma Elementary Schools.
Are you just running out of space?
We're running out of space. Like I said, we've got different programs for our children where we have 2 to 3 teachers with special needs, physical therapy, the title programs. We're just, and it's not that our student population is increasing, it's flatlined, it's not. We're just, the different services that the school divisions have to provide for our kids, we don't have the room to give them the privacy they need to work with the children, whether it's a small group or individual.
How many kids is there in the Yuma?
Right.
Roughly.
Right now, we have 187 children in kindergarten through 6th grade, 15 in pre-K.
How many of them kids is from Tennessee and Yuma?
I can't give you that number offhand.
I can roughly remember it a year ago.
Yeah,
about 40% of them's from Tennessee.
I think the number was 23% for Yuma and Weber City. For Scott County, all total is about 10%.
The numbers have not changed. They've flatlined in that regard. It's not overabundance of Tennessee residents. They're children.
I know Weber City and Yuma was the most in the county at that time. And that I think that you was one give me the numbers that I remember them too. Gate City, I think, was 3rd, and maybe Shoemaker might have been 4th.
How did this affect the Scott County taxpayers?
Well, Mr. Skeen, every project that we've done, we've worked within the monies that have been allocated to us. So to answer your question, have I come to ask for additional monies outside of what we expect or receive? The answer is I haven't.
So this is purely just a letter of support?
That's all I'm asking for at this time as we make grant application. As I said, this is a competitive grant, so it's not going to be only Scott County to make application for it. It'll be statewide.
And all the construction will stay within
within the constraints of our own budget. That's what my plans are, yes, sir.
All right, do I have a motion for a letter of support for each of these?
I'll make that
Can we have
motion.
some discussion about it?
Sure.
Or we planning to, I know we're going into closed session to discuss the county administrator. Are we planning on interviewing any? And the reason I'm asking is, could we discuss this maybe at another date in more detail?
This particular?
The letter?
Yes.
But they've got to have it by April.
I know, that's why I'm asking, are we going to be back here before April 18th?
Probably not.
Okay. I do have concern about the Tennessee students. Roughly, I think it's $2,800 per student that Scott County taxpayers are paying for
But
the.
you gotta keep in mind too, Mr. Skinny, some of those students you made mention of, their families are property owners. And we have such a diversity within the family, within the household itself. Mom or dad could actually live here in Scott County, but the address that's on file may be in Kingsport or in the neighborhood. All I'm asking for is a letter of support as we potentially pursue this, that's all.
I would make the motion to send the letter of support.
I'll second that motion to send the letter.
Thank you.
Both letters.
Both letters, yes.
For Yuma and Weber City.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, since we all agreed to rearrange the closed session around, I'll make this. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
The board hereby enters into closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711 for A1 personnel, county administrator. All in favor, vote by way of saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Break.
Break, yes. Break.
Grab your candy.